Hello there, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome back to the Talos Principle. And today, we are going to be tackling the semi-final world of World A, which would be number 7. We still have the Star World to complete, which we require 2 additional sigils for, unfortunately. And we also have that area, which is boarded up by a bunch of pallets from Serious Sam 3. And also, there's no doorway here. For some odd reason, I don't know why. Anyway, let us continue on with World 7, and we have a couple of files in this computer. This computer which appears to be glitching out a tiny bit, but we're going to ignore that fact and just actually read all the text files that are on here. Such as another Athena one, a whole story about Athena and whatever garden that she was placed in comparison to ours, I'm sure. There's probably a connection in there somewhere. And a little interview, so I'll scroll through this one a little bit more slowly so you can actually read some of this, if you enjoy that sort of thing. And immediately behind us there's actually a time capsule.
When I was in 9th grade, my parents took me to Pompeii. At first, I was amazed by the feeling of walking through an ancient city. But then I suddenly got scared. I realized that I was walking through a real place, where real people had lived, people like myself, with mothers and fathers and lives and hopes and dreams. And now it was all gone forever. I ran to my father, crying, and told him about this. And he said, I remember so clearly, he said, yes, but we are here. So long as there are people in the streets, the past isn't really gone.
As long as we are here, then this place obviously will continue to exist, and as soon as we leave, it will no longer exist because the game will be rendering a different world. It all makes sense! And we're going to start off with a puzzle with 2 pesky little buzzers. There's a star behind this wall, actually, and that will come into play later. But I figured it was worth mentioning for the time being. First of all, what we need to do is not drop the connector. We need to connect this over here. And there is going to be one minor hindrance, which is this buzzer. And this door opens extremely slowly, so I'm hoping I can fit through just before it closes. And we need to take 2 items with us. One being this hexahedron, in order to block one of the buzzers, which would be that one over there, because we have to use 2 connectors in this case. One of which, of course, was placed right here. And we're gonna grab this before the buzzer closes this area once again. And we are going to move the original over here. This world in particular has a lot of connector-based puzzles. I'm pretty sure I've already mentioned this before, and I will say it time and again. You will pretty much always be using connectors throughout a lot of this game. They're some of the most popular trends when it comes to designing puzzles. And as I said before, I don't hate them. I think they're a pretty decent enough mechanic to work with, but that doesn't change the fact that I really would have liked it if there was, maybe a little bit more variety instead of just constantly having connectors after they were, introduced and such, but you know how it is. It's still a fundamentally good concept, so I can't really complain about that. So this is where the star is going to be, and of course, it's going to involve another cross-puzzle solution. So we're going to connect this connector to that connector over there, so that way a connector way out in the distance in the puzzle which is parallel to us all the way out there will connect that connector. The connectors will open the door, and everyone will be happy. But in the meantime, we're going to be taking a look at pinhole windows, which has more connectors! This one is currently opening a door, which we can't reach. So instead, you connect it to here, and you have to connect it to this panel, and you kind of have to move this one far enough away so that we can actually see both the wall panel and the connector. And then there you go, the door will open. This one requires a lot of connector moving, because now we have 2 connectors. We need 2 to actually hold open the red door, so that way we have access to this blue source port. So what we are going to do is connect that panel with this one, and place it, I want to say, right around here. Should be fine, because we then need to move this one over here. Now, the reason behind the positioning of this is because we need enough space between us and these walls so that way this connector can connect the blue source and the panel. Otherwise, well, the red lasers are just going to get in the way, and that will be a little bit of a pain. There's also this right here, which I sort of briefly forgot about, but it's actually very simple to connect that one. It just requires a little bit of proper positioning in order to connect it properly. And if I did this right, you need to be standing in a pretty specific spot for it to work, otherwise it's just not gonna connect, and that will be an issue, because sometimes it will just hit the wall instead, but thankfully this time it did not, and we can pick up this other T-block. Most excellent! We are almost halfway through this world already, and I already read that QR code, so we can move on. There's actually a bunch of QR codes around here, such as this one. This one who it's just called version 17, who speaks of a world of sand. And, well, if that doesn't make enough sense to you, yes, we're going back to Egypt, spoiler warning. Trapped inside, this puzzle, if you know your way around doing this one, the funny thing being, I'm probably not going to be able to demonstrate it all that well, but I would like to reiterate, if you know this puzzle well enough, you can literally do this in 2 moves. It's kind of pathetic, really, because if you just place this one down, and that opens the door, then you can take the original connector, and then just connect it like this, and then if your positioning is right, bam, the puzzle's done. That is such a... like, why? Why would you put such an easy puzzle amongst all of these? Granted, I mean, if you know your way around this game and such, then a lot of puzzles could be considerably easier in the beginning, but with all of these other ones that usually require a bit more thought, that one just seems so out of place in this area, but it's a puzzle nonetheless. You gotta fill in the cracks here or there. And you also have to read all of the QR codes, some which have more text, some which have less text, such as Dog. Dog doesn't really have much to say on the situation. He should be back in the Half-Life universe, but he is not. He is too busy trying to solve puzzles. Locked inside requires a fair amount of steps. First you have to set this connector right around here, I want to say. Positioning is key, as per usual. And then you want to connect this with this panel, and then that connector should be able to reach from this area, because we need to get another connector over here. And if you couldn't recognize the pattern, there's lots of connectors which we need to collect, so that way we connect one connector to another connector. It's really just all about connectors, man. What else can I really say about this situation other than connect 4? Ooh, that was very clever of me, don't you agree? You probably don't agree, and you know, that's perfectly fine with me, honestly. But you need to open this door, so that way you have another means of access to take these particular connectors with you on a different adventure, because over here is this one panel which requires a red laser. So, you take the original one, and then you swap it around a little bit with this source port, and then connect it to the one which we just placed, and there you go. The sigil has been revealed.